Hi, I'm Mia. I'm going to tell you what a real day with anxiety feels like. Not the pretty version you see in videos, not the kind that fits into an inspirational quote, the real thing. You wake up and something already feels wrong. You can't name it. There's no clear reason. It's just a feeling that was there before you even opened your eyes. A weight on your chest, tension in your shoulders, a quiet voice in the back of your mind saying today is going to be difficult, without explaining why. Then you try to function. You drink your coffee, reply to messages, smile for the people who need to see you smiling. But inside, you're making an effort that nobody can measure. The effort of appearing whole when you're actually made of tiny broken pieces that no one can see. And if you try to talk about it, you hear things like, everyone gets anxious, you're being dramatic, just distract yourself, or stop overthinking. Today I want to talk about anxiety not in a clinical way, but in a human way. The way it feels to live with it every day while the people around you don't fully understand what is happening inside you. Because you deserve to be understood, and I want to try to do that right now. Do you know that feeling of being okay and not okay at the same time? Of being at a party with people you like and still feeling an emptiness in your chest? Of laughing at something while part of your mind keeps replaying something you said 3 days ago that nobody else probably even remembers? Do you know the exhaustion of never being able to switch off? Of lying in bed while your brain refuses to stop? Of replaying your entire day, searching for what might have gone wrong, wondering what people thought of you, imagining what you should have said differently? Of sleeping badly even though you did nothing wrong, and waking up tired from a whole night of thoughts you never asked for? Do you know anticipation? That habit of preparing for the worst before the worst even happens, imagining how a conversation will go badly before it begins? Canceling plans because the effort of existing in public feels too heavy today. If any of those feelings sound familiar, I want you to know something. This is not weakness. This is not exaggeration. This is not being overly sensitive. This is anxiety, and it is real. There is a huge misunderstanding about what anxiety actually is. Everyone feels anxious before an exam, a presentation, or a difficult conversation. That's normal. That's your nervous system doing what it was designed to do, preparing you for a challenge. But anxiety as a condition is different. It's when the alarm doesn't turn off after the danger has passed. It's when your body stays on high alert even when there is no threat. It's when your mind creates dangers that don't exist because it can no longer clearly distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. It isn't weakness. It's a protection system that has started working against you. What hurts me most about this misunderstanding is that it makes people who struggle with anxiety feel guilty for struggling, as if it were a choice. As if all you had to do was decide to stop thinking and everything would be solved. If it were that simple, nobody would choose to live like this. Nobody chooses to wake up with a racing heart for no reason. Nobody chooses to spend hours obsessing over an ordinary conversation. Nobody chooses to fear things that they know aren't real threats. This isn't a choice. It's an invisible pain that lives inside you, and it wears you down in ways people rarely understand. I've heard things about my anxiety that stayed with me for years, not because the people meant to be cruel, but because their words landed when I was vulnerable. You're too dramatic. Stop creating problems. There's nothing wrong with you. You just want attention. Everyone deals with that. You're not special. The worst part isn't hearing those words. The worst part is what happens afterward. You carry them with you. You start measuring yourself against them. Every time anxiety shows up, you wonder, am I exaggerating? Am I just being weak? Shouldn't I be able to stop this? And then, alongside anxiety, comes shame. The shame of being anxious. The shame of not being able to control it. The shame of feeling too much, needing too much, being too much. And shame can be even heavier than anxiety itself because it isolates you. It makes you hide what you're feeling. It convinces you that you don't deserve help because the problem is you. Because you're weak. Because anyone else would be fine in your place. But that's a lie. There was one day I'll never forget. Nothing unusual had happened. There was no clear reason. Yet I remember sitting there and realizing I couldn't breathe properly. Not in a dramatic way. In a quiet, frightening way. The air was reaching my lungs, but it didn't feel like enough. I kept trying to convince myself that everything was fine. I tried to think rationally. I reminded myself there was no real danger. I told myself it was just my mind and that I needed to stay in control. But your body doesn't listen to logic during a panic episode. Your body only feels. And what mine was feeling was pure panic. No clear reason. No clear beginning. Just the overwhelming sense that something was terribly wrong. That day, I stopped pretending I was okay. Not because I wanted to, but because I no longer had the energy to keep pretending. And I discovered that stopping the act, as terrifying as it was, became the beginning of something important. Because when you stop hiding, you can finally look directly at what you're carrying. Looking at it hurts, but it's different from carrying it alone in the dark. One thing I've learned about anxiety is that it doesn't live only in your mind, it lives in your body too. It's the tension in your neck that never goes away, the stomach that suddenly tightens, the heart that races in situations that don't seem dangerous, the exhaustion that remains even after a full night's sleep. Your body stores what your mind hasn't processed. For a long time, I ignored my body. I believed that if I could think correctly, control my thoughts, and reason hard enough, anxiety would disappear. But anxiety isn't a logic problem. It doesn't disappear when you present rational arguments against it. It lives deeper than logic can reach. Learning to listen to my body became one of the hardest and most important things I've ever done. I learned that when my shoulders tense up, something inside me needs attention. When my stomach tightens before a situation, it's trying to tell me something. The body doesn't lie, even when the mind insists everything is fine. Anxiety is often your body asking for attention. The challenge is learning to listen instead of silencing it. I won't give you a list of tips, not because helpful tools don't exist, but because what works for me may not work for you. What changed things for me was stopping the fight against anxiety. When you constantly fight it, you spend enormous amounts of energy. You become anxious about being anxious, and the cycle grows stronger. What helped was learning, slowly and imperfectly, to acknowledge it when it arrived. You're here again. I see you. It sounds simple, but it isn't. Yet there is a profound difference between being swept away by anxiety and learning to remain standing within it. And if you're reading this and recognizing yourself in these words, please remember, you are not making this up. You are not weak. Your pain is real. Your exhaustion is real. Your struggle is real. And you do not have to prove any of it to anyone for it to matter. Anxiety is not weakness. It is a burden many people carry in silence, and you don't have to carry it alone.